Welcome to Soul Led Lifestyle Podcast with me, Adele McCoy, and my magical guests, giving you the strategy, tools, and activation you'll need to create your soul-led life. Hi, and welcome to another episode of Soul Led Lifestyle Podcast with me, Adele McCoy. I'm really excited today because we have the wonderful Louisa who is coming on to talk her magic with us. She does so much phenomenal work. She works with women who are wanting to live a more authentic life and discover their true essence. She does a lot of group work and one-to-ones, and she is currently working on her first ever international retreat in Egypt, which she's going to tell us all about. So it's going to be so exciting. She deals with Egyptian mystery arts and self-mastery, and there's just so much. Listen, just tune in. I hope you enjoy the show, and I will see you on the other side. Hey, Louisa.
Hey,
how are you?
I'm really good, thank you. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for coming on my show today.
Oh, you're so welcome. It's a pleasure to be invited. So thank you.
You're welcome. And we're going to just jump straight in and talk a little bit about what was life like for you growing up. So what was little Louisa like?
Little Louisa actually had a really lovely childhood. So I'm part of a really big Greek Cypriot family, so there was always a lot of activity. You used to have to fight for a bit of attention,
yeah.
grab the food quickly from the table before everyone else jumped in for it. But I'm very blessed. I was very lucky to have a very strong, solid family and a lot of love surrounding me all the time. So apart from sort of minor life issues that came up for the family that inevitably affect a sensitive child, It was pretty good. I can't say life was, my childhood wasn't filled with trauma. I was lucky, and I think it gave me a really solid foundation, and a recognition actually of how secure love feels, which I think has been really valuable for me as part of the journey as well. It's allowed me to experience the contrast, because it was actually later in life for me that things got a bit tougher.
Okay.
And perhaps, we could say traumatic events seemed to occur for me after childhood as opposed to earlier childhood was very nice. I was very lucky.
You were very lucky, we all kind of dream to have that, mum and dad and everyone gets along and everyone's happy, and and there's just a few of us, unfortunately, that have that. So very blessed.
There were stresses. My dad's got a Greek Cypriot Mediterranean temper. He was stressed. He worked a lot. So it wasn't that there wasn't things and stresses, and nobody was sort of all smiles and roses all the time. But in terms of having a stable home, two parents that you knew cared about you, it was this, the fundamentals were there for me, which I'm really grateful for, and I think actually gave me a solid place from which to explore the more spiritual aspects of life from perhaps an earlier age than other people get to do that. I had the luxury as an early teenager of being able to feel that safety and security around me, and so I wasn't in survival mode all the time, and therefore I had the brain space and the ability to explore inner realms and not worry about my outer safety, So in some ways it gave me an early opportunity to start exploring my spiritual life.
Amazing. So what age was you then when you started exploring that?
So the earliest I can really remember wanting to kind of dive into it in a more, say, like academic way, or in a kind of more organized way, because all through childhood I would receive kind of intuitive guidance. I was aware of spirit guides and beings from the other realms. But I think it was only when I really got to like early teens, like 13, 14, that I really wanted to learn more, and I would start getting all the books out from the library that were related to occult or esoteric knowledge. I got into, my sister gifted me a set of tarot cards actually, which is really hilarious because she has no interest in this stuff whatsoever. But she gave, and actually I think the earliest set she gave me had some kind of Egyptian link. I'm going to have to dig them out, they're in a box. But so that was around 14, so I would then be offering tarot card readings to my other 14-year-old buddies, and I was really soaking it in, just trying to understand who and what I am and my context in this greater scheme of things. So so the exploration started in a more serious way around that age.
Okay. So when would you then say sort of the pivotal moment was for you where you decided to really lean into doing this type of work? And,
right. I think it was a sort of progressive, it's hard to pinpoint actually a moment that was set in stone that I was going to sort of step into that. I mean, it's always been a part of who I am. And so it's always interwoven in how I move in the world. But I think there was in 2017, I was already a Reiki practitioner at that time. So was sort of working in that field, already. But I had a spontaneous awakening experience in May of 2000. I mean, I remember the date, the time, everything. It was so precise. That's how like pivotal and pinpoint it was. And it was like an instant moment of self-realization where the illusion of everything just dropped. It was like, the veil just suddenly lifted. And I was flung quite sort of firmly into a space of recognition that everything is one consciousness, that everything that we see is all made of that one substance, choose to call it what we will, that one energy, that one source. I could see very much that there was nothing separate from that. So the idea, the concept of separation just dissolved for me. I realized the person that I'd been calling Louisa my whole life, or that I thought was in control of everything, actually is a set of ideas and thoughts, and it's the vehicle that consciousness has created as this form, Louisa. But actually it's simply a tool that consciousness uses in order to witness itself, to know itself. And so I very quickly flung into, I mean, the most intense part of that experience was the first 24 hours of being, but it continued. It sort of, again, it took a while for me to come back into an embodied state, actually.
So did something happen that made it happen, or?
Not really. I mean, I'd been on a path of sort of, my seeking was very much not, I wasn't trying to seek enlightenment. I wasn't trying to seek, that wasn't my goal. I just wanted peace. I'd had a previous 11 years of very much not peace in a very difficult relationship. And so my mantra probably internally was always, I just want peace. I just want peace. What was the trigger was actually the day that this happened. My children's father there was a lot of difficulty there, and he'd essentially held on to the kids. I was, doing that whole mama bear thing, like I'm going to get my children. So I was in a state of, I mean, the reasons in the story are unnecessary, but it was the state of emotion that I was in that I think is the important part. And the reason I mention that, because I was probably for the first time touched into an anger that had been very untouched before in me, that kind of really deep rooted primal mother instinct, like, you know, it was just a no. So I think I reached the end of a line, the end of something that brought this sense of, I've had enough, like, this is enough, I just want peace. And as I was driving to get the children, it was as if, and I always state quite strongly, this was not something that I did, this is something that just happened. I felt a sense of what I could only call, it was given to me by grace. It was like a descending from the top down of this sense of sudden peace that just washed through me. And with that came the realization of, oh, actually, there's nothing to forgive in respect of this dynamic with their dad, because everything that he's done or appears to have done that I've perhaps thought is to me has been for me, because it's meant that I could no longer look outside myself for peace. And every time that I've been met with, nope, you won't find it here, you won't find it here, you won't find, has caused that to sort of turn inwards on itself until I saw it inside me, which is the place that we're going to find it. So that realization happened while I was on the way to get the children. By the time I was picking up the kids, I was just like, there's nothing to forgive. Like, he was very shocked because I was just in this complete state of like utter peace. And he was expecting some sort of like rumble, I'm sure, but you know, instead he was met with peace. And then I got home. My partner at the time had run me a bath, and I went in to speak to him. I was like, I wanted to tell him about this descent of peace that I just experienced. And he was like, no, go and have a bath. I've just run you a bath. Go and have the bath first and we talk after. And then it just started to unfold. As I stepped into the bath water, one, I could feel very tangibly the love that he'd placed in the bath. Like that energy of love was palpable. I suppose my sensitivity to feeling what was imbued in that was just heightened at this point. So I'm feeling like, wow, everything's like, this is so beautiful. And I'm getting in the bath, I'm laying there, and I'm looking around at everything, and I'm like, but everything's made of the same stuff. I could still see the forms. I could see water, the toilet, the shower curtain. The forms were still present, but it was as if what is usually in the backdrop of existence stepped forward and the forms stepped back, and I could see that everything was made of the one substance, simply vibrating at different speeds, different
I get it.
to create the form. And it was just such a like, oh my goodness. So one part of me was just in this moment, the other part was questioning, like the egoic self was going, but hang on a minute, this is surreal, it's going to stop soon, it's going to end soon. And I thought, let me just get out the bath. And I fully expected to kind of come back into the body in a fuller way, and it for all of this mystical experience to just kind of dissipate. But it didn't, it kept going. So then it was witnessed by my ex-partner, who I sat with for the next 4 hours, and it was like an unraveling of everything. He was asking me certain questions at certain points about what the perspective was that I was seeing from, but there were a number of realizations that happened. It was also the realization that everything is here and now, that time. So I in this moment, I was somehow outside of the confines of time and space. What I was realizing or experiencing is probably a better way to put it, is that everything is right here, right now. Like there is, you know, we've heard a lot about, you know, Eckhart Tolle's power of now. And I actually hadn't read any of that at this point. So I had really very little context to understand what was happening to me at this point. Except for, you know, what I was currently experiencing, which was just this sense of being, that everything that exists was right here, and that this moment, it's not even a moment because that indicates time. Do you see how tricky that?
Yeah.
The best I can do is kind of point to what I was experiencing. But I was very much, and I was saying to him, it's all here. Everything's here. I felt so complete and whole. Like nothing, there was nothing missing. I also saw, I was sort of at a certain point, my consciousness was taken like right out, as if it was zooming out. You could see the earth, the multi, like the universe, the multiverse, like just scanning out and out, and just shown the complete balance of everything. So it also laid to peace for me, you know, those very human and very natural struggles in relation to suffering, and how difficult it is to see suffering. And I, as a human being, I still feel all of that. Of course, the compassion is probably more than ever, but I also simultaneously understand that there is complete balance, there is complete harmony in the manifest world. It's simply a matter of polarity and duality. That is what's required for the continuation of consciousness exploring itself.
And that's the hard part, isn't it? Because when people are going through things, all they're seeing is that bad negative thing. They're not seeing the other side. They're not seeing the duality, you know, because they're so
you're in it,
you're in it,
so identified with it. Exactly. And so this experience gifted me, which I, you know, what an incredible gift to have been handed in this way. The gift of it is that I seem to, I mean, there's a lot of things there's so much I could say about this topic, but and what that process has looked like for me since that moment. But one of the really powerful things that I've been left with is this ability to simultaneously experience the human, like, you know, pains and trials, but with this understanding that actually everything's okay. So there is always this underlying peace. It doesn't mean I don't experience unpleasant things. It just means I don't suffer. So it's been the end of suffering, because I have that understanding. But the end of suffering doesn't mean the end of difficulty. The suffering happens when we become attached to it and identified with it. And so I've gained like this whole new way of identifying. I like actually because 4 hours during that actual awakening experience kind of passed, and I had no idea until my partner said it's like midnight, we should probably go to bed.
Wow.
I was like somewhere else. And I was like, oh, okay. Like, so it's sort of brought me into time again. But what I said just at the end of it was I was crying. So I had this, like, just before that, there'd been a big release of tears, and he'd asked me, why are you crying? And I said, because I feel completely liberated. And he asked why. And I said, because I get to choose. I get to choose between being identified as a person or the identification as consciousness itself. And that was very true. And that's remained for me, is that I can move my conscious awareness between the two. It feels very much at will. There's some sticky times, because obviously there's an unraveling still happening. And I don't ever believe that we're completely done with that spirit. Like, you know, enlightenment or self-realization is not the end of the story. It's the beginning. And I knew that as well, because you then have to, I call it the spiritualization of matter. You have to bring that spiritual truth into the everyday lived experience, which is something that, you know, the monks or the yogis that have gone off into the mountains, they don't do that part. That's half the story. There's the householders, there's the people like us that have kids and families, and so you're simply bringing what you've realized into real life context. And so there's always going to be layers and layers and layers of this soul, this person in this life, who I was in others, that are going to continue to unravel. So there are sticky moments where I can become very much the human being and get right in there but it's necessary to then see things again through that context and unravel the person, unravel those programmed behaviors and the conditioning, and sort of soften that and loosen it. But generally speaking, there's, like I said, there's a piece here, because I can really choose how I want to perceive, and usually it's a simultaneous combination of both. I am the person, the human, the embodied being, and I'm also consciousness and beyond the body and infinite. And yeah.
Oh, amazing. I love the way you put that together, because for what, like, our listeners that may be new to this whole spiritual world, you've put it in a way that they would possibly understand, hopefully, because people do find themselves going down this rabbit hole trying to understand everything, like, what do you mean, like, we're conscious? What do you mean we're energy? What do you mean, like, what's that all mean? Like, you can just get lost in it all.
And what relevance does it have to my daily life? Like, why is this even important? How is this real? Like, and I think that's exactly right. I think it's important for people that may just be starting out to sort of explore what feels interesting, take themselves down those little rabbit holes. I think everybody's journey is so unique and so different, and I love hearing stories of other people's awakening experiences and how that unfolded for them, because there isn't just one way.
No.
It's like, that people reach the same realizations that I have in a slow burn. Like, it's sort of bit by bit. For me, a lot of it happened like that, but that's not, and no one way is more valid than another. It's just different for each of us. So and I think my path before that was very much kind of just follow whatever made me something light up in me, like, oh, that's interesting, let me take a look at that. And some of it was kind of nonsense stuff that I now kind of see as, maybe he's not, but it was a stepping stone for me. It was part of
of your journey.
The exploration and the uncovering. It's like being an archaeologist of consciousness. Do you know what I mean? Like, putting artifacts to see, and then taking a look at how that is relevant for you in your life. And I think ultimately, like, some of the most spiritual people I know, I would actually say don't identify with or express in a spiritual way at all. They're just human beings living a life. And my true belief is that every single human being is on a spiritual journey, whether they choose to acknowledge that or not. Life itself is the unfolding, and that can look like what we think of or sometimes call like mundane existence. Or it can look like, somebody that dresses in a certain way and does, outwardly looks like the spiritual teacher. It can be both. It's not. So I think we kind of need to all, like, everybody would, I think it's good to remember that, and then it kind of takes the pressure off a little bit. Life is always home.
And so now, where are you now? Like, what are you doing? How did that all start? Where are you?
Right now, what I'm really stepping into is an aspect of spiritual teaching that has been something that's just interested me ever since I was a child. So I'm kind of freely exploring and playing with what makes my heart sing right now. And I've got a really strong love for ancient Egyptian mystery arts, because I've found so much correlation between my awakening experience and what I perceive to be some of the teachings of the ancient Egyptian world. I mean, I find it in other traditions as well, such as the Vedic Hindu traditions that speak of enlightenment. However, I feel like there's something here with me that is so attracted to the ancient Egyptian way of expressing it. It feels very natural for me to kind of embody that and be part of that. So after the 2020 fiascos that we all went through, I took some fairly drastic action that was quite guided, and I decided to sell my house and took myself and the kids to Egypt for a 5 month. I guess for me it was a pilgrimage. For the
Yeah.
kids, it was a world school
Yeah.
experience where we met with a lot of other families to have a educational experience in Egypt. So, but for me, it was very much pilgrimage, and I knew that a lot was going to open up and unfold for me, just by simply being on the land over there. And I wasn't wrong. It was a really potent period of time. A lot unraveled for me. A lot of the conditioning that I was speaking about, the things that were still sticky for me in my personality, the things that have been holding me back from really stepping into my power, who I am, what I'm here to do. And so it was an amazing journey, intense at times. I started going into some of the temples over there, started to have rememberings, I suppose you would call them, of previous lifetimes there, but also the skills that I had started to re-emerge. So, for example, working with sacred oils being one of them, working with lotus, the blue lotus flower. I was receiving downloads of like full ceremonies and rituals to use to connect with the blue lotus and how to work with her and what she can bring to a person. And so these were the kind of experiences that were happening for me over there. And at a certain point, it really started to receive some strong messages that I would be running retreats in Egypt for women initially, but actually we're then gonna, it's with another woman, we're partnered together to do this, but we intend to open it up to men as well. So we will have retreats that are mixed, but the first one is in November. It's going to be a beautiful 10-day immersive experience where we not only visit the sacred sites, but some of them are very little known. They're not all of the main sites. Some of them are the ones that are behind lock and key that you have to know the right people to get into, which I'm like, so these people just turned up in my path, and it was like,
wow, it's meant to be.
It was meant to be. And it's going to be quite a I would say beautifully intense retreat. It's for women that really feel that they're ready for something more, that they want very much to bring themselves into their purpose, in the same way that I took myself on that pilgrimage and just jumped in and did it. Well, I want to bring all of the learning, because it's Egypt, especially traveling alone as a woman, can be very challenging. I had 2 kids with me, and it wasn't without challenges. So what I wanted to do very much so was facilitate other women coming to this beautiful part of the world where there is so much waiting for them, but in a way that was comfortable and eliminated some of that difficulty and challenge in just being in a different culture as a woman on your own in a land that's not your own. It can be quite a frightening prospect. So to come together with other sisters in a safe container, being held as you go through that transformational journey, as we bring in the ceremonies, the practices that will aid the realization of what it is you want to change in your life and how to move through that. So we'll be very much holding women in that space. The energies present in Egypt are so potent that, I mean, just the land itself, we're going to be in Luxor, so we're right on the edge of the desert. We're going to do a vision quest in the desert as well. The land holds you, the energy of the land, the energy of the Nile waters holds you. I've got goosebumps now as I'm talking about it, that tingle that you just get where spirit's like, yes. So it's all present here. And it's in addition to that, you have the temples where for a very long period of time you would have priestesses and priests working alchemy. So this is what they were doing. The ancient Egyptian mystery arts were all about self-mastery.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of created these energetic pathways in these temples that if you're tuned in, or you, even if you're not tuned in, you're going to feel them in some way. It will have an effect on you in some way. And we found that it's very conducive to really being able to step into change and becoming more of who you're supposed to be, or who you want to be, and that being revealed there. So that's what one of the things we're doing. I've just finished actually teaching an online it was a 4-week discovery course into the ancient Egyptian mystery arts for self-mastery. It was live, but I'm just putting the finishing touches on that to bring it out to the world as a self-led course as well. So that will be soon available for people that want to perhaps just take a little feel into some of this stuff. And you know, even if it's a bit new to them, it's very, very beginner, so a really, really good one for people that want to kind of immerse a little bit but are not too sure. You know, it's a good introduction. So yeah, and healings, I mean, I'd still love working with people on an individual one-to-one basis doing healing work, and so that's going to continue. It's now with the elements of the ancient Egyptian energies that I bring into the healing sessions as well. Which, do you want to see some of the tools that I use?
Yes, please.
Shall I show you? Right, so these are some of the tools that the ancient Egyptians used as well in ceremonies, in healings. The priestesses would use them. So I'll show you first. We have this. This is called the sistrin, and you actually see them holding this on the temple walls. And they would have been the old ones, the original. I mean, this is not an antique one. It's not from that time. It's a replica, but they would most likely have been made of stone, carved out of stone, and then had these metallic or stone discs, and they were designed to shake up the energy, to move the energy, to call in the energies, in very much the same way that you see the South Americans with rattles, or other using rattles of some sort. So this is the sistrin. So this one I utilize to usually shake up the energy and just get things energized, get things moving, and to call in the energies that we're going to be using for any particular ceremony or session. Right, so the next one would be, this is actually a relic. This one I found. Wow. Let me get it in camera. This one I found at the Temple of Dendera, which is, to me, one of the most magical temples. It was a healing center, and I'd seen the images on the walls of the priests and priestesses holding a conical shaped item, that with the sistrin in one hand and this in the other. And I was thinking, well, it must be where they held incense or burned incense, but I didn't know. As we left and we were walking around the grounds, my youngest son, he's like, Mum, look at this. This looks like that thing we saw on the wall in there. My eyes lit up. And so I've looked at it, and on the inside, you can, I don't know how clear it is to see, but it actually has, like, you can see the burnt resin and that's like, I don't know how old the stuff that's in there, but this is one of the tools that they would have used, and you can still see the remnants of the incense or resins being burned in there. So I use this actual one now for my ceremonies and healings, because, and it just, again, just to hold it, you know, when you just feel the energy, it really feels quite incredible. So I actually use these even if I'm doing online healings. It's not, or doesn't always have to be in person, but I take this one here. Again, it's a replica, but this is made by somebody whose family, they had a very ancient lineage of stone. They were the builders of, like, the stone statues in Egypt, and so he's still got the skill to do this, and so he's created a replica, and this would have been used to place in here oils and ointments that would then be presented in ceremony to whoever it is that's to receive them, whether it was another priestess that was receiving the offering. So this one I use with the sacred oils if I'm anointing somebody, for to ask for the oils to work with that person. And just lastly, this symbol here is very, very similar to the ankh.
Yeah, I was going to
but
say.
Yeah, really similar, except it's double pronged at the bottom. And this is actually what they call the Thet knot. It's the symbol of Isis, and it's what I use in healings because it symbolizes the aspect of Isis that is the healer, the one who is the divine mother that brings the magic of healing. And so this is used by me to kind of set that energy into place for the ceremony or the healing session, and to bring that archetypal energy into the work. So yeah, that's just a few of them. I thought it might be fun to show you.
That's amazing. So your healing sessions, what are they called? Is there a name for them?
Good question. So at the moment, I'm just really calling them ancient Egyptian mystery art healing, energy healings, or ancient energy healings, because I work in quite an intuitive way and I receive messages in the moment. No two healings look the same. They're very bespoke, very individualized, and I will start to receive information about what's required for that individual prior to the session. And so they vary. There's no one formula, one format. I may use all or one or none of those tools, depending on what's required for the individual. But they either take place in person or online. Sometimes they're mostly energy work that I'm doing on the person, but then there'll be other times where it's necessary for the individual to need to speak things out, to bring something into the voice, into the vocal cords, and to be sounded out. So there may be some conversation. It really differs depending on the individual. So this is why it's kind of difficult to quantify it as such, as it's this or it's this or it's this. And I draw on, I think, my many years of working as a healer now, which is like well over 10 years. Some of the things that I've learned, like some of the psychic surgery that I do, for example, is very guided by spirit in the moment. There's other things that I've learned doing shamanic trainings. There's, so it's, but mostly for me, it's very intuitively led by the guides that come in at any given time.
Oh wow, sounds amazing. So a healing session would last like half an hour?
It can vary. I usually allocate an hour for a full healing session. There has been times where that's gone over, again, because I don't like to limit what's the time required and necessary. So if somebody comes to me for a session, for example, they'll have like a rough idea, like maybe it's an hour, maybe we'll go over, depending on what's needed. So I don't put a cap on that really, because it's so individual.
Oh wow. So where do you actually, let me ask you first, has there been any cool success stories around clients that have come to you for any work and then they've gone away and completely like changed their world, if you like?
Yeah, actually, there's been many, but I'll speak of one recent one, shall we say, that kind of fresher in my memory than any others. Yes, a lovely lady that came to me because she'd recently had a hysterectomy, and she was really, really still suffering. Like, she was in so much pain. For a short while after the surgery, her stomach had flattened and she felt a bit better, but she was now going through this period of intense emotional distress, well as physical discomfort and like bloating again, and really uncomfortable. So she came to me for an energy session recently. And actually it was a really beautiful session for me, because her body spoke to me. So her body whispered to me what it needed. It told me, like, it was very stressed and had been over invaded. So it felt so over invaded that it just wanted to be left alone. And so the only thing that was actually required from me was to pour love into the body, not in an invasive way, but just to affirm to the body that you're safe. And I did this with energy, not words. It was an energy exchange, an energy session. So the focus was just to input love and bring security and that sense of safety. And she sent me photographs the next day of her stomach, and it was now completely flat. She said,
Oh,
I
wow.
can't believe what the difference is today. She said, but it's not just my body. She said, I feel a sense of clarity around the next part of my healing journey that was just not present yesterday before I came to see you. And so and she's kept in touch with me ever since. I've been receiving updates from her. So although it's sort of not like a mind-blowing, like, oh, you know, her whole life changed this, but she's, for her, that was huge because it's enabled her now. She's been able to go back to work, which she didn't feel able to do before because she was in so much discomfort. The clarity, the mental clarity that she now, I mean, the pain hasn't come back. The inflammation has gone completely. The pain has stayed away, and the mental clarity is such that she's now feeling stronger than she has in years, which feels like a huge door opening for her. And I'm really excited to see where she goes next, you know, the next part of her journey. And I think what I always try to do, because what I don't want people to become is dependent or reliant on my healing services or anybody else's. It's really about empowering individuals to know that they can do this for themselves. And perhaps what the most valuable part of the work that I do is giving people an experience of well-being so that they know what they're aiming for themselves, because I think sometimes we can very much lose sight of, especially if we've been ill for a long time or in pain for a long time, we can lose sight of what well-being feels like. And it's important to be able to recall that. And so yes, I hope as well now that she's going to be able to move forward and know that that level of wellness is available to her, which I think it makes a huge difference. Yeah,
it truly does. So where do you see yourself in the next 5 years, like with your business, with
yeah,
Egypt, with
yeah.
retreats,
So
everything?
I love that question, actually, because that's like, you know, that's kind of all I'm thinking about right now is what I'm building. So it's kind of two-pronged for me. I want to spend a lot more time in Egypt. I love it. So I'm aiming to split my time between the UK and Egypt, and perhaps, you know, other destinations in between, so that I can continue the world schooling journey that I'm on with my kids, particularly my youngest. I want to keep building on the retreat business, because that for me is something I've wanted to do for years, is just run retreat, different styles in at different times, because I've also been a meditation and mindfulness teacher for years. So there will be things that perhaps don't include the ancient Egyptian element, that are just a little bit more simplified, and will be nutritional retreats, resets with mindfulness and meditation. But I also want to build on another aspect of the work that I do that I haven't mentioned yet, which is mentoring for teens and their parents that are perhaps going through difficult times. I've been working with teenagers for a number of years as well, and I'm a qualified teen yoga and mindfulness specialist. So I want to continue with that work and actually bring more of that work into my world and support teenagers more, whilst also mentoring their parents in order to be able to kind of bring them back into harmony. So I've got some plans to create retreats specifically for teens and their parents. That the first one will be in Egypt most likely, but I'm also planning one for Cyprus, which is where my family are from. My dad's side are from Cyprus. And yeah, and kind of, you know, just build on those things. So that's the idea right now, but I'm also just completely open to life taking me in whatever direction it wants to
Yeah.
take me.
Yeah.
You know, because I'm fully aware that what our desires are today,
Yeah, can
is
change.
evolving. Like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
as you new experiences and new things in life, it's like, oh, there's something shiny there. I've got a
Yeah.
new desire to go that way. And I very much live like that. So I'm always like, the caveat is, this is what I'm planning, may not be where I land. So let's see where this adventure of life is taking me.
Either way, it's all really exciting, you know, because
it,
it's
it
life
is.
and we get thrown the curveballs, but we also get thrown a lot of greatness and love and
Absolutely.
happiness. And, you know, it's just
Absolutely.
like you talked about before, having the duality and the balance to be able
Yeah,
to live like a really fulfilling life, you know?
absolutely. Absolutely.
Um,
Because you don't know, you need both in order
you
to
do.
have the contrast, right? To know what you like,
Exactly.
what you don't like. Yeah.
Exactly. Um, Grounding and protection, obviously working, doing what you do and obviously what I do, is very important for us in our lives.
Yeah.
But what I find a lot with clients especially is that they don't always know how to, or they're not consistent, or they feel like they're doing something wrong. They just can't get into it, but it's spiritual hygiene and I strongly recommend it. So I've been asking all my guests um, how you ground and protect yourself, so we can give, you know, the listeners some inspiration, if you like.
Yeah, absolutely. So I actually keep it incredibly simple. I really do. So for me, grounding is well, one of the most important parts of it is the regular check-ins with myself. Like, where am I right now? What is my body expressing and feeling right now? So, you know, to know if you need to be more grounded, you need to do those check-ins. So for me, it's like I get up in the morning, what's the first thing I do is I check in with the body. How am I feeling right now? Do I feel like I'm in my head? Do I feel fragmented, or do I feel quite solid? Where's my energy? Where's my energy? That's the question. And then I will work accordingly depending on where my energy is. So if it feels like I'm not grounded, I will use a very simple breath work practice, which is just really deep breaths in, bringing that all the way into the body, letting it move through the feet down into the ground,
Mm-hmm.
and then allowing it to release back outwards and just rest, letting the body rest and feel held and solid. So my practice is very simple.
Yeah.
There've been other times I might have used visualizations of like rooting myself in, which I think are really, really useful if you need to have some kind of stronger visual to bring that in. But for me, it's just very simply using my breath and feeling where my energy is at
Mm-hmm.
any given time. um, Sometimes, I mean, and especially after a healing session, for example, I find it quite important to do that and bring myself back in
Mm-hmm.
to the body, because I can get quite out of body. And another way that I will do that is to go outside barefoot on, and you know, really just be in the, like, I either go to the park where there's a local stream. I like to wash my hands in like fresh water if there's a little stream somewhere, or when I was in Egypt, it was amazing. I just go to the Nile edge and
Oh wow, that sounds so like I'm just washing my hands in the Nile. Hang on.
or if I'd needed to ground, like, and to feel my feet on the earth, the desert was like a stone throw away, you
Yeah.
know. But you adapt to your environment, you find a
Yeah.
way to just be the garden. It doesn't need to be, you know, you don't even need to go far.
Yeah.
Yeah, so to those things I will make sure I do for sure before and after healing sessions. And yeah, and in the mornings it's a simple check-in for me. And actually I do that check-in throughout the day, like,
Mm-hmm.
where is my energy right now? Where am I? Where am I in relation to my environment? Where am I in relation to my heart space? Where is my body in relation to my mind? You know, just kind of feeling in and asking and being aware. I think being aware of ourselves is perhaps the most important part of
Mm-hmm.
grounding, and spiritual protection, because if you don't know, if you're not asking those questions and you're not bringing awareness to it, you don't even know what you need.
Well, yeah.
So yeah, so those I would say are the fundamentals. Yeah.
Amazing. Thanks for sharing that. And what is your favourite crystal and why?
Lovely. Okay, so at the moment, it's, I was looking for another one, but it's the lapis
Oh,
lazuli.
yes. Oh, that's a
Yeah,
strong crystal.
yeah, so strong. As soon as I've brought attention to it again, I can feel like all the tingles in the body.
Yeah.
Yeah, love lapis. It was one that was very much utilized by the ancient Egyptians. In lots of ways, even in painting, the temple walls, the blues that you see, it's lapis, where it's crushed down into a paint. So that's why these temples vibrationally are just off the charts. They're amazing.
Oh, wow.
But I do bring lapis into my healing sessions. I find it incredibly beautiful helper in relation to healings. And it really helps amplify for me the psychic visions.
Definitely.
So yeah, I sleep
remember
in.
I remember my mum got me a piece, and it was quite a chunky piece, and we were out in public. She's like, oh, look what I got for you. And she's given me the stone. I haven't, like, she's just given it to me. I haven't, like, saged it. I haven't done nothing to cleanse the energies of it. And as soon as I had it, it's like I got a premonition, and that was my first time experience a premonition. I was like, oh, that was weird. And my mum was like, what's wrong? I said, it's like I know this, what I've just seen is going to happen. And then lo and behold, like a week later, exactly what I saw in my premonition. And so, yeah, I'm like, yeah, that's my premonition stone. I know that when I grab that stone, it all comes in.
Magic's going to happen.
Literally.
Yeah, that's amazing, because I have a similar thing with it. So I think in terms of psychic ability, it seems to pop you open even more. So yeah, it's definitely my stone of choice at the moment. It's the only one I'm working with actually at the minute. I mean, I've got loads, but this is very much. I have this, and I have another piece that's about this big that was gifted to me, and it's in a necklace with it has the goddess Ma'at on the front of it, like carved into it. So those two pieces are the ones that I'm just
Oh,
my
amazing.
attention right now.
Yes. Okay, so I know you told us a little bit about the retreats that you've got coming up and bits and pieces. Is there anything else that you want to share in terms of courses or offers that you have coming up, and how can people find you?
Yeah, lovely. Thank you. So, yeah, I think I've spoken about the things that I have coming up. The course that's going to be the self-led ancient Egyptian mystery arts discovery course.
And can that be for beginners as well, like someone newly stepping in?
Absolutely. I would say it's suitable for beginners and intermediates. I would say advanced will be coming soon. So I'm already starting to work on something more as I evolve in my understanding. So there are certain concepts that I touch on. It was myself and another lady, Frances, by the way. We've been working together on this. And she's also the co-retreat host. Beautiful soul, amazing woman. There are things that we touch on in the discovery course that are perhaps quite advanced. But we say that we're just touching in, and that these are things that at the moment we don't feel qualified to be doing any kind of teaching around until we have spent more time in them. So as we evolve, so we will just bring what we've been learning and embody. Because until it's embodied, I don't feel able to teach it unless it's become, you know what I mean? So we can have conversations around it. And in the discovery course, actually, we had some incredible conversations that will be shared as part of the course to kind of just get those concepts playing around in the mind. Because I think essentially, anyone can gain something from that course, simply from the perspective of new concepts introduced open the door to us taking those sort of philosophical explorations within ourselves. And those are really valuable because they all are like self-reflection tools that help us learn more about ourselves. So it's suitable for beginners. We break everything down. Any concepts that we speak about, spiritual concepts, are broken down into very easily understood and digestible, language. It's not sort of a completely academic or the course is very much a course that we wanted people to experience. So there are, in each of the 4 week, well, it was four sessions. Each of the 4 sessions, there will be a segment that gives information required about the conceptual things that we're talking about, and then the second half is a combination of an embodiment practice that you will do with us in the like video form, and like guided meditations that take you on journeys to meet parts of yourself and to meet the energies of Egypt. So very much experiential course. So so it's a lovely course. I wish someone had put something like that together years ago that I could have done. No one was doing it. So that's coming soon. We have the retreat. There is a website. I don't know if you want me to give you the website.
If you can just let everyone know now, and I'll put all the details in the post podcast.
The website is a Mentee Rebirth Retreat, menteerebirthretreat.com, and all the information is on there about what we'll be doing, the accommodation, everything, and our email address for contact and how to reach us is also on there. With regards to the work with teenagers and parents, I'm just at the moment rebranding, and that is going to be launched soon. People will be able to find out more about that on my Facebook social media, so that's where I will be launching it soon. So anybody that wants to, I'm very much an open book and open door, so I'm happy to receive friend requests from anybody that's interested in any aspects of that work as well. I think that's pretty much it. I mean, healings I'm available for anytime. Again, people just feel free to email me or send me a message through social media or email me through the website.
And your social media handles, your name?
It's just my name. Yes, just Louisa Andrea. I think it says Sun Lady. So it was someone was given that name years ago and it's stuck. So Sun Lady in brackets, or Aurora, something like that. So I'm pretty easy to find, but if not, I can be emailed through the website as well. I mean, I think that's kind of it right now. That's what I've got going on, and I would love to connect with anybody that has questions or wants to ask anything off the back of this podcast as well. I'm very approachable. I don't say no. I'd love to hear.
So much, Louisa.
You're welcome.
Your story has been mind-blowing. And yes, so for those of you listening, anyone that's interested in anything that Louisa's spoken about, all the details, I will pop them underneath the podcast post, so you'll be able to get to her.
Amazing.
Okay, well, take care, and we shall catch up soon.
100%. Thanks again. Have a lovely day. I'll speak to you soon. Bye.
To stay connected, please follow us on YouTube under Adele McCoy, and you can also find me on Facebook, Adele McCoy, and you can also find me on Instagram, Adele McCoy, or you can find me on my website, which is www.adelemccoy.com. Make sure that you are subscribed to this channel and you are sharing and liking and doing all of those amazing things. Much appreciated. Big love. Until next time, take care.